Kia ora, no mai haere mai. Welcome to 2023 Unity in Diversity event. I can see an ocean of atohua, beautiful faces out there. So welcome to our world, welcome to your world, and welcome to everybody's world. My name is James Bennett Crofts Tapa, and I too will be one of your MCs for the evening, and just helping Sister Aisha out.
I would like to invite Police Constable Hadley White, Ethnic Liaison Officer, to come up and share a few safety tips with us.
Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kaka, ka tangi hoki aho. Ti hei mauri ora. Kia ora koutou, ko Hadley White tōku ingoa. I'm an Ethnic Liaison Officer with the New Zealand Police, and it's my honour to be here with you all this evening. Thank you, Sheikh Farid, for the invitation. With the police, we do like to say some safety messages, so I was happy to take the opportunity. Our vision is to be the safest country, and we cannot do that alone. We need to be together as a community to make us all safe. So I just encourage you, if you're out and about and you're seeing something that's not quite right, please call 111 if there's a danger to some person or to some property. Just because it's not happening to you, don't assume someone else will call for help. Please stand up and make that call yourself. If it's not an emergency or it's happened already and the threat's no longer, you can still report it, and I'd encourage that. You can call 105. Finally, it's been quite cold these last couple of weeks. In the morning I've struggled to get out of bed. -3 is not really very nice, I don't think. So I don't know about you, but in our house we've noticed a couple of our cars have frost in the mornings. So if that's the case for you, before you start your journey, please make sure that when you're defrosting the windows, don't just do a little circle in front of the driver's seat. Make sure you do the whole windscreen and even the side windows, so you can see the whole picture while you're driving, okay? There's also some ice on the roads, so please keep your speeds down and make sure everyone in your car has a seat belt or is in a child's seat. I'd like to just close with this quote. I charge you all that each one of you concentrate all the thoughts of your hearts on love and unity. When a thought of war comes, oppose it by a stronger thought of peace. A thought of hatred must be destroyed by a more powerful thought of love. Abdul Baha. Ka nui te aroha me te kotahitanga kia koutou katoa. Kia ora.
We want to thank everyone for coming here this evening and joining us today. Some of you have sacrificed your busy schedules and others have come far, far away, I know that for a fact, outside of Christchurch. So we want to acknowledge every single one of you that's here this evening. A few organizations that we would like to acknowledge are the 15th of March Whānau Trust, Sakina Trust, the Roli Resources Centre, our Ethnic Faith Communities Leadership Forum, Ministry of Social Development, Canterbury Police. We'd like to also thank Ngai Tuahuriri, our Hebrew congregation Christchurch, our Bangladeshi parents group. We'd like to also thank the Muslim Association of Canterbury, St. John Ambulance of Christchurch, and our New Zealand Spinal Trust. Along with our acknowledgements, we'd also like to thank, please, the Seeds of Love, Canterbury Refugee Resettlement and the Resource Centre, Christchurch Invitation, the Restorative Practices, Ministry of Ethnic Communities. We'd like to thank Christchurch City Council, also Voice of Islam, thank you, Shirley Boys High School, and New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. And we'd also like to thank Linwood Islamic Charitable Trust and FIANZ. Thank you.
We would also like to acknowledge a few people who are here with us. Leanne Dalziel, Duncan Webb, Tracy McCallum was going to attend, but she last minute sent her apology. Rosemary Banks, former New Zealand ambassador to USA. Margaret Austin. Tracy Summerfield. Gary Moore. Joan Buchanan. Sarah Pallett. And Jeff Hampton and his journalism students. We would also love to thank all the volunteers that have helped today. The chefs, the kitchen team, the servers, the organisers. We could not have done it without you. Because of the timing, we could not acknowledge everyone. You are all important, and our patron Farid Ahmed says we love and appreciate you all.
To start with, we would like to acknowledge the 51 shuhada, the injured and traumatized brothers and sisters, to dedicate a dua for them and for the peace of all of us. So I'd like to call some of the children, led by Masjid. They're from Papa Farid's Sunday class, to recite a dua. So the English translation is going to be up here behind them.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين اللهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us invite Farid Ahmed, the patron of tonight's Unity and Diversity event, to say a few words to welcome you.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you, Kiora. It is a wonderful event because of you. We are nothing. We are just trying to do something to create a positive environment. But you have brought this positivity, not us. That's why I would like to start with thanking you from the bottom of my heart for coming here. Some of you have come from all the way from Wellington, Auckland, Hamilton, Nelson, and so on. It is wonderful. Without your sacrifice of your precious time and your good heart, this event was going to be impossible. It is so peaceful here, and I wish the whole world was like this. The question is, why did we start this event after 15th of March? We have started this event for three main reasons. So easy to remember. Three main reasons. Number one, for acknowledgement. Number two, for reminder. And number three, to promote the voluntary spirit. I'll repeat again. Number one, to acknowledge. Number two, to remind. And number three, to promote the voluntary spirit. So the first one, acknowledgement. We don't want us to forget what happened in 15th of March. So we need events to acknowledge our shuhada, our martyrs. They cannot be forgotten. We acknowledge them, and I call them burnt candles. The candles, what they do, they burn themselves to give other people light. And these 51 Shuhada, they have shaken us, shaken the nation, and they have given us the light to make hard work or more effort to prevent any more life to be lost. We also want to acknowledge the survivor families for their tremendous dedication for peace. They were assaulted. They could have taken the path of violence and anger. They did not. They showed us that there is always another way, and that way is the peaceful way. We want to acknowledge also the first responders who dedicated their life, risked their life without asking, what is their religion? Where did they come from? No, they have one thing in their mind: human, 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 and we got to save one another. We need to acknowledge them every year and more often. We need to acknowledge the New Zealanders for their extraordinary love and compassion. We need to acknowledge the world and the countries to standing in solidarity to support us. We need to acknowledge each one of you for your contributions to make a better world within your ability and with your roles. Also, we want to acknowledge the little children, primary school children, and high school children in New Zealand. I have read hundreds and hundreds of their cards, their messages. And some children, they wrote, we skipped the lunch to collect money for you. Some little kids, they have written, we did vacuum cleaning to collect money. To them, I would like to say, you didn't have to go that far. But you are our future. You are our hope. And your teachers, your father, your parents, they are our hope, because the thought you have put into that is brilliant, and that gives us hope that our future generation are going to be more compassionate than us. This event is to remind ourselves that 15th of March had united us. One man, he wanted to divide us. He wanted to inject poisons of disunity among us, to inject the poison of hatred among us. But together, we defeated one hate by millions and millions and millions of love. We need to remind ourselves that he could not break us. So, the reminder is that New Zealand stood together, showed remarkable unity, and New Zealand proved that violence is not the answer of violence. Killing is not the answer of killing, but love and harmony is more powerful, always powerful. So we need to remind ourselves through this little event that we need to keep up. We need to maintain the level of compassion we had in future, and we need to remind that to our next generation in New Zealand. The last point is this event is a little token of promoting the voluntary spirit. So you may say, voluntary spirit, does it mean giving voluntary money? No, the time, the talent, the effort. Tonight you have come from so many diverse backgrounds. This is a voluntary effort. And this effort should be widened by our nature and by our attitude. How? I would like to just mention two lines from a Bengali poem. I remembered it when I was in primary school, and I still remember it. It says, "O bhai, ভয়কে মোরা জয় করিব হেসে গুলাগুলির গুলিতে নয় গভীর ভালোবেসে." Oh, my fellow human, we will win the fear by bright smile. So we can, if we smile at one another, that is a voluntary action. Doesn't cost anything, but that will give or promote unity in diversity. So it says, we will win the fear, with bright smile, and we will win the hearts, not by shooting, not by gun, but with our loves. So let us spread more smile and more love to promote our unity in diversity. Thank you very much. Please feel at home. Assalamu alaikum. Kia ora.
New leadership brings new hopes for the future. So I would like to invite right now our new mayor of Port Tahi, Honourable Phil Major.
As soon as I walked in the door, I realised what a friendly atmosphere it was. It's very good to be here, and thank you so much for asking me. Tina koto katoa. Salam alaikum. Minister, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me here tonight for this important unity dinner, which is fast becoming an annual fixture. I am truly honoured and delighted to be here. Tonight we come together to remember, reflect and recommit ourselves to the value that bind us as a community. We gather here not only to remember the tragic events of March 15th, oh, mate, how you doing? But also to honour the strength and resilience that our city and indeed the entire country has shown in the face of adversity. This event, utterly tragic as it was, has given us the gift of reconsidering together what makes a strong, peaceful and respectful society. On that unfathomable, awful day, our city was shattered by an act of violence that targeted our Muslim brothers and sisters as they gathered peacefully and devoutly for Friday prayers. Lives were lost, families were torn apart, communities traumatised, and our sense of security was shaken. In the wake of this horrific event, we find ourselves at a crossroads, a choice between succumbing to fear and allowing division, or rising above this to foster unity and understanding as residents of Christchurch, or as the residents of Christchurch know only too well. Before I continue, I want to first acknowledge Fareed and your powerful challenge to the world that forgiveness and love is more powerful than hate and division. You are a treasure, and your fearless spirit epitomises that of a true Cantabrian. As Mayor of Christchurch, I stand before you tonight with a commitment stronger than ever to ensure that lessons from the tragic day are not forgotten. We remember those we lost. We hold their memories close to our hearts, but we also remember the spirit of solidarity that emerged as the people from all walks of life, all faiths and all backgrounds came together to offer support. They offered support, compassion and love. This unity, this shared resolve defines us as Cantabrians and is what we must always carry forward for the future. In the aftermath of the mosque shooting, our community chose empathy over hatred, compassion over indifference, and unity over division. We must ensure that these choices continue to guide us. We have to learn from this tragedy, not just by reflecting on the darkness it brought, but by embracing the light that emerged in the response. We have to remember that diversity is our strength, and that building bridges across cultures, faiths, and traditions, we create a stronger, more resilient city. By learning from this tragedy is not just about unity among ourselves, it's about fostering a broader culture of acceptance and respect. It's about standing up against all forms of hatred and discrimination, whether they target religion, ethnicity, gender, or any other difference. It's about reaching out to one another, engaging in meaningful dialogue, and nurturing the environment where understanding thrives. In this journey, we also have to remember that change starts with each one of us. It starts by choosing kindness over cruelty, compassion over indifference, and respect over prejudice. It starts with educating ourselves and our children about values that make us stronger and a more inclusive society. Tonight, as we gather under this roof, let us reaffirm our commitment to building a city that is united, resilient, and unwavering in its pursuit of justice and equality. We need to honour the memory of those who we lost by working together to create a legacy of love, understanding, and acceptance. So before I close, I want to acknowledge that as the coronial inquiry begins in October, we are acutely aware of the re-traumatisation that our fellow Muslim brothers and sisters and their loved ones arriving overseas will endure. As always, we will offer our support and join our partners ensuring that whatever resources are available to provide for the community are available at this time. Again, thank you very much for this opportunity to be among you all. It is indeed a great honour. Kia kaha, nō tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you very much.
We are honoured to have the Mayor of Palmerston North, Honourable Grant Smith, with us. He is very passionate about the unity and diversity, so we welcome him to share a few words with us.
Kia ora tātou, nau mai, haere mai. Ko Grant Smith, aho, assalamu alaikum, and greetings from Te Papiaoia, Palmerston North. Just over a year ago, and thanks to Fayad's invitation, it was a huge honour to attend this Unity and Diversity dinner. And it's actually a double honour to be invited back again. I must have spoken quite well. But seriously, I want to strengthen the connections that we have with this city and the people of Christchurch, and talk about a little bit about our Palmerston North unity and diversity experience. But firstly, if I could acknowledge you, Fayad, for your generosity, Mayor Phil, Mayor Nick, there's a few here, Minister Priyanka, Your Excellencies from Australia and the UK, as well as representatives from the Netherlands and the USA, Trek Abba, Aman Kamal, Sir Mark Solomon, and all the others from Christchurch. There's quite a list. Welcome to you all. So why is Palmy here? No, we're not following the Spanish football team, and those that know a little bit more about that will know where I'm going. It's about manakitanga. It's about being welcoming. Everything that Friard and Mayor Phil just spoke about is about unity. It's about being welcoming. And as a city, we've been attracting migrants from all over the world since our city partners in Mana Whenua, Rangitane, first welcomed newcomers by opening the door to Palmerston North back in 1864. There wasn't conflict in our part of New Zealand, and we're somewhat unique with having a statue of an Indigenous leader, Te Piti Te Awi, in our square. And last time that I was here at this function, I talked about that tradition of manakitanga, the outward expression of welcome, acceptance, mutual respect, understanding, and how that's intertwined in our DNA. Massey University has been another factor that's helped those multicultural development and having students from all over the world since the 1960s. And numbers of those people have stayed. In 1991, we held our first International Day, and that annual celebration of diversity is our International Festival of Cultures, which is held in our square Te Marae o Hine, and it's now a high point for our city calendar and attracts 18,000 people annually of all different ethnic communities. And this year, we have a 30th anniversary of our multicultural centre, the Manawatu Multicultural Centre, and it's been laying out the welcome mat for newcomers to our city for around 130 different ethnic communities. And since 2006, we've been a designated centre for refugee resettlement. And in 2017, we were chosen as a pilot city for the nationwide Welcoming Communities program. And it was in a partnership with the Ministry of Ethnic Communities. So the diversity of these distinctions represent te anga. It's a gift and not something that we should take loosely or take for granted. We should actively cultivate the social, the economic, and the cultural contributions that new arrivals make up to our cities. And another reason I'm here is the Muslim communities of Christchurch and Palmerston North are close. And in the aftermath of 15th March, our city and community reached out immediately. In the past couple of weeks, I've attended 2 citizenship ceremonies, an interfaith religious diversity event, which had it involved the Muslim community, Hindi community, the Sikhs, the Jews, the Buddhists, Baha'is, and mainstream Christian denominations. And I think that is fantastic that everybody can come together. And so there is a small snapshot there of our unity and diversity. And that's why it's so important to continue to promote a welcoming environment. And please, from the people of Palmerston North to the people of Christchurch, thank you so much for continuing to promote this unity. So thank you for Mayor Phil and all the others here that are speaking today on promoting unity and diversity. Assalamu alaikum, kia ora.
We would love to hear from Dr. Nick Smith, the Mayor of Nelson City, who has come all the way to share Nelsonians' feelings with us.
Sir Mark Solomon, my fellow mayors, Phil and Grant. Can I also acknowledge our ambassadors and representatives of the Australia, of the United States, of the UK. But the most important ambassador that I want to recognise today is Farid Ahmed, an ambassador for love and forgiveness, not just in this country, but globally, of which this city can be very proud. I say to Phil, you claimed Farid in your opening comments. We in Nelson like to claim him too. I actually first met Farid when he was applying to be a New Zealand resident as a halal slaughterman at the Stoke Freezing Works. And I can still remember when I first met him. He spoke so positively of New Zealand as a country that was safe and peaceful. It was only a little while later that a drunk driver on the main road in Nelson put Farid into a wheelchair. And I felt guilty then that we'd welcomed this man to New Zealand being safe, and it had not turned out that way. But never in my worst nightmares would I have expected his life in our country to have developed the way it did with the horrendous tragedy that occurred in the city on the 15th of March. But I still remain incredibly proud that I was a small part of his journey in bringing him to New Zealand in the way in which he has made us a much better country. It is a little odd in that at this Unity and Diversity dinner, I represent New Zealand's least diverse city. But what was stunning for me, and the grief that came out of the 15th of March, with our local Muslim community, we organised an event outside the mosque in Hardy Street in Nelson. It's a very small mosque. It had 25 members. We'd arranged an event to mark the loss, and we were expecting 30 or 40 people to come along. There were 4,000, the largest crowd I've ever observed in the history of Nelson, of people grieving for that innocence that was felt, that was lost, and actually a yearning that the events in Christchurch would not cascade into a wave of hate and further violence in New Zealand. And what gathers us today, and I do want to acknowledge the way in which Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern led our country, the work of Mayor Leanne Dalzell has to be acknowledged, in that I think we all had a fear that this could compound, and as was so accurately put by yourself, Farid, rather than triggering hate, it triggered a wave of love for which we are all better, for which we should not forget, and which tonight's dinner is making that candle of love continues to burn in this beautiful country we share. Kia ora.
The mayor just took the papers. Thank you. So Waiata for us is a very, very important way for us to express ourselves. And we would like to ask our whānau to come up and share a Waiata with you. The translation will be, English translation will be up on the board behind me. There we go. And it's basically about everything that we're here for tonight, right? Unity, peace, and harmony. So my whānau's coming up here. We've got the Cross whānau coming up, the Whitau whānau, the Simmons whānau, the Te Pā whānau, and our towers.
E honore, e gloria, mana ki te whenua, whakaro, haie, ki ngā tangata katoa, ake ake, amene, te atua, te peringa, oranga. Toku oranga.
Kia ora koutou.
Human unity is not a local need, but it is a need for the whole world. And in this little room tonight, we have excellencies from some great countries, and we would like to give them a chance to inspire us with their experience in human unity from their own countries. Please welcome Her Excellency Herinda Sidhu, the High Commissioner of Australia and New Zealand.
Thank you, Aisha. So many people to acknowledge here. Obviously, patron Farid Ahmed, mayors, Christchurch Mayor Phil Major, Grant Smith from Palmerston North, Mayor Nick Smith from Nelson, Minister Radhakrishnan, my friend, High Commissioner of United Kingdom, Iona Thomas, representatives from the US and the Netherlands, and of course Sir Mark Whittamoo Solomon. Really lovely to meet you and really acknowledge you, and Sheikh Ibrahim from the KNZM. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko au te mangai o te whenua waiwaiā, ko Herinda Sidhu tōku ingoa. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And from my own tradition, Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. We're gathered here today to remember a really horrific event, but also to celebrate the unity that has come from that. And I speak to you in two capacities in a way. I speak to you as representative of Australia, a country where more than half our population were either born overseas or have a parent who was born overseas. We're very diverse. We have over 300 ancestries represented. And of course, we are also home to the oldest continuous living culture on earth, our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Diversity for us, bringing our society together, is an ongoing project for us. And that is the perspective that I bring today. But I also bring another perspective. I'm a child of a partition survivor in India, an era in India's history where religious division drove fear and violence. The result of that is still here today. It has left a long tail that we are still grappling with in history. And so I think what I hear this evening is that New Zealand has stepped up and chosen peace, unity, and embracing of its diversity, not allowing that violence to continue with the tale that will mark generations to come. And that is something that we learn everywhere we look. When I went on to study Arabic in Egypt early in my career, I started to examine the basis of these conflicts that had been in my family history for as long as I could remember. And to my surprise, I learned that there were so many commonalities from the Sikh faith and the Muslim faith, that in the Sikh scriptures, about 541 rags were written by a Muslim, Bhagat Kabir. And that's when it sort of brought home to me that actually, as different as we may look on the surface, what really unites us is our common humanity. And that is what I really want to pay a great tribute to Farid Ahmed for the inspiration that you bring. Because you have shown us and you remind us that the best way, and in fact the only way, to respond to hate is through peace and love. So I wish peace and love for all of you. Thank you very much. Kia ora, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we want to please welcome Her Excellency Iona Thomas, the British High Commissioner to New Zealand to share a few words with us, please.
Tēnā koutou katoa, salam alaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, ministers, MPs, mayors, diplomats, faith leaders, civic leaders. I would like to thank Farida Ahmed for the invitation to attend and speak this evening. I have visited Christchurch several times since my arrival in Aotearoa a year ago, and I can see that despite the adversity the city has faced, the spirit and courage of its people shine through. This is no better exemplified than the important work Farida is supporting tonight. Throughout my career in the British government, I have worked on ways to bring communities together. In the UK, working with Muslim communities in the north of England to stand up to and counter divisive extremist narratives. In Libya, where the UK funded training to empower women to have a say in the peace process in their country. And most recently in Pakistan, where I regularly convened groups of different faiths to discuss how we could promote inclusion and understanding, including with the then Duke of Cambridge, the Prince of Wales, and the Archbishop of Canterbury. What is clear to me from my work in the UK and in different countries is that diversity of voice and thinking enriches our societies and communities. There is a whakatoki which captures this. Ke tēnā, ke tēnā, ke tēnā anō. Tōna ake ahua, tōna ake mori, tōna ake mana. Each and every one has their own uniqueness, life essence, and presence. Valuing this uniqueness and presence gives us new perspectives on our own lives and opportunities to learn and experience different cultures. It enables us to think about problems in different ways and come up with better, more equitable solutions. This is something that I have learned from personal experience, and I am proud that it is also at the heart of the UK's foreign policy. We are committed to promoting open and inclusive societies which respect diversity. And while we talk about diversity, it is often through spending time with people from different backgrounds, faiths, and genders that we discover that we have more in common than we often expect. The common desire to live peaceful, secure lives and protect those whom we love. And this commonality transcends difference. So we should not fear diversity, but instead embrace and celebrate it, as we are doing tonight. And I am very grateful to be part of this event, which promotes such a positive and open approach to difference and holds it up as a way to make us all stronger. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.
I would like to request Kimi Monahan, Deputy Chief of Mission from the US Embassy, to come up and say a few words.
Kia ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you all for inviting me here tonight. This is a very special evening, and I'd like to acknowledge all the really impressive people here tonight and everything that Christchurch has done to really turn the whole story around after March 15th. It's really inspirational for the whole world. I have two young boys who were young and now are quite grown up. When they were growing up and sometimes got in a scuffle, I would say to them, don't forget the 3 rules of humanity. And I would say, what are the 3 rules of humanity? And they would say, be kind, and oh yeah, be kind. This is the message we're hearing from Fareed today, and this is the message that we drill into our children, or we try to drill into our children, and even more importantly, into ourselves, right? Especially at times of great challenge. Your city hit the worst of the challenge, and this is really so inspirational, what you've done to put the power of love and forgiveness above all of the adversity that you've seen. I think I always try to think of the glass half full rather than half empty. I would say your glass was just to the very bottom, and yet you were looking at those little drops and building them up. And now, because of what you've done and what Fareed has done, it's really a glass more than half full, and that is really quite an example for all of us. In foreign policy, of course, in U.S. foreign policy, what we do is we try to look at diplomacy as unity and diversity, as bringing friends, partners, and allies together. This is exactly the message that you're sending here. So diplomacy, what we do every day, is what you're doing here, and you are a tremendous example. I think that joy in life is always about the people. He tangata, he tangata, he tangata, te aroha, salamu alaikum. Peace be with you all.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to request now Mr. Geordie Hooft, the Honourable Consul for Te Waipunama for the South Island, on behalf of the Netherlands Embassy, please.
Goedenavond allemaal. Ko Geordie Toko Ingoa. Salam alaikum. I'd like to acknowledge the national and local government leaders, the faith leaders here today. Fareed, Ahmed, thank you for the invitation, which was actually to the Dutch ambassador, Art van der Vorst, who sends his apologies. He was unable to be here tonight. So he's sent me, the Honorary Consul for the South Island. I'd like to acknowledge and thank Fareed Ahmed for his continued kindness, compassion and efforts to create unity in the face of such tragedy and personal loss. Thank you, Fareed, for everything that you do in this space. Measuring the progress of social cohesion and unity is complex. It's something the Netherlands knows well. It's an intangible thing that cannot easily be quantified. But what is clear is that Fareed's ongoing work has made an invaluable contribution, not only to the Christchurch community, but to New Zealand society as a whole. It is humbling and inspirational to see Fareed placing this unity, love, and human-centric approach at the centre of his kaupapa, his philosophy. Fareed shows us that it is people, not policy alone, that strengthens unity, builds bridges, and creates a safer world. His work reminds me of a Dutch saying that you will recognise when translated. Wees de verandering die je in de wereld wil zien gebeuren. Be the change that you want to see happen in the world. We must listen to and learn from communities and work with them to build cohesive responses. A top-down approach alone will not work. It is a journey, and we must all walk it together side by side. This is something we can see in the New Zealand government's newly released national security strategy, Secure Together, Tō Tātou Korowai Manaki. Threats to our community do not only come from overt acts of war. They can range from the horror of terrorism to the subtlety of disinformation that sows the seeds of division. The Netherlands is a country that values individual freedoms. Freedom of speech, freedom of love, and freedom of religion are all important to the Netherlands. Yet freedom of speech is increasingly used by some people as a way to disseminate hatred and vitriol. This is not what Dutch people stand for. As countries and as individuals, we must stand united against racism and discrimination when we see it. Practitioners of hate speech should be discomfited when spouting their divisive and malicious rhetoric. Social unity can be achieved by making the stories that we share human-centric and personal. We lose sight of our humanity and become divided when we build walls between us. We all need to take the time to learn to understand each other before jumping to criticism or judgment. Now, that may be difficult for some, but we have seen the consequences of inaction. We must act now with purpose, unity, and love. On behalf of the Government of the Netherlands, I would like to express our support and unity for the kaleidoscope of cultures that make up our community in Aotearoa, Christchurch, and in New Zealand. Please know that you can reach out to our embassy if we can ever be of help. Ngā mihi nui, ma as salam.
We have some beautiful quotes for those who could not come, and for those that have joined us to share their insight around unity and diversity. I would love to invite Patrick O'Connor, Joan Buchanan, and Dr. Mustafa Farouk to come up and read a message on behalf of Her Excellency Joanne Limay, Honourable Leanne Dalziel, and Honourable Rosemary Banks.
From Her Excellency Joanne Limay, the High Commissioner from Canada to New Zealand. Kia ora, assalamu alaikum. I am proud that as the first country in the world to adopt a policy of multiculturalism over 50 years ago, Canada strives to demonstrate that a nation that can be strong, not in spite of the differences, but because of the differences. Work is far from over to truly build a country that has ethnic people, Indigenous people, and religious minorities can live free from systemic racism and discrimination. Building a society that is free of racism requires ongoing commitment. This includes increasing intercultural understanding and awareness, communication, and discussion between communities, bringing unity into diversity. Congratulations for tonight's dinner. I join you in spirit to celebrate the differences that make our respective societies strong, diverse, inclusive, and proud. Kia ora.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kia ora koutou katoa. It's an honor and privilege for me to read a quote from Leanne Dalziel. If I knew she wasn't here, I would feel more comfortable. But the fact that she's looking at me, I know I'm not going to do justice, to this quotation, the way she would have read it herself. But I will still give it a go. And this quote is from Honorable Leanne Dalziel, our ex-mayor of Christchurch. It says, "We will not be defined by what happened on the 15th of March 2019. We are defined by what followed: the unity, the love, the compassion, and the kindness. They are who we are, and we commit to ensuring that this moment in our history defines a future committed to social change for good." That is our history, and that's our future. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, kia ora tātou, and in a language that's buried somewhere inside me here, Dear Gwitch Kaid Mila Faltrick Shlokan al Farakukara, which in diversity terms that is Irish Gaelic for welcome and salam alaikum and no mai harimai and all of those welcome words. Just before I read a very short quote, I'd just like to take up the challenge of Farid to everybody here and quote Martin Luther King, who wrote this beautiful quote many years ago. "We shall repent in this generation, not so much for the wicked deeds of bad people, but for the appalling silence of good people." Very powerful. And Farid, you've challenged us in that way to not be silent in our goodness. This quote is from the Honourable Rosemary Banks, the former New Zealand ambassador to the United States. And she says, "Diversity is the taonga we find in each other when we open our eyes, our ears, and our hearts." And she says, "Thank you, Farid Ahmed, and the dinner organisers, of course, there's so many behind the scenes, for bringing us together to celebrate this diversity once again. Kia ora tātou.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are one family, and as a country, we come from diverse backgrounds and cultures. You've all been sitting too long. So please stand up to sing the national anthem together.
Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. So Mark Widamu Solomon, KNZM with us. So I'd like to request Uncle to please come up and share some words of wisdom with us, please.
Ko te mihi tuatahi ki ngā atua i runga rawa, ko koe te timata me te whakamutunga o ngā mea katoa kia whaikoro rea tūnanga tapu. Tuarua, kei ngā mate, mātou mate, koutou mate, haere, hari hoki atu ki te kainga tuturu o te matua, i te ringa kaha o te atua, hari atu rā, moi mai rā, kati. March the 15th, a period of horror for our country. We were brought into the modern world for what comes from offshore. I was on the Canterbury District Health Board at the time, and I wish to say that those victims of the shootings up to 2019 had undertaken 1,800 plus surgeries from the result of that shootings. I was honoured on the Sunday morning to be invited to the migrant centre when our Prime Minister came on. And her call, as Nick says, we are one, I believe also has saved us from a lot of the lashback from that event. But one of the most heartening things for myself personally at the migrant centre, a wife of one of the victims stood who had been killed the day before and her opening words were, I forgive him. And a number at that day, their opening words were, I forgive him. I was standing outside when our Prime Minister came on with a head covering. And the first comment she got from a reporter is, why have you got that on your head? I liked her answer. I think I'm showing a sign of respect, son. What do you think? Now, that same young reporter came up to me afterwards and asked what did I think of the head covering. My response was quite simple, clothing. And I reminded this young man that during the 50s, the 60s and 70s in New Zealand, Catholic and Anglican nuns were veiled. They had their heads covering. None of us went running to the hills because we could not see their faces. I wish to remind us all also that terrible event, the negativity didn't just stop on that day in this country, because 2 days after the shooting, when a Muslim woman went to hop onto a bus outside the Christchurch hospital, the driver of that bus slammed the door on her face and drove off. And it was 3 young teenagers, 3 young girls, around 14, that immediately went down to the bus depot and laid a complaint against that driver. The day after that, a Muslim woman in this city got spat on. That is a reality. There was a huge outpouring of love and grief at the shootings, but please do not forget that in our nation there are those that hold that hatred, that negativity in their hearts still. And we have a responsibility to address that ourselves. Only we can stop that. Diversity is not a new thing for our city. Gary Moore was mentioned earlier. He rang me in the early 2000s to ask me a question, and the question was quite simple. Mark, how many different peoples do you believe live in Canterbury? My response was, I don't know, Gary, 20, 25? At the time it was 153 different peoples lived in Christchurch. I now believe it's over 180 different peoples live in Christchurch. We are a diverse nation. The path we have in front of us now is how do we bring the balance amongst our diversity, and how do we work together to create a future in this nation for us. Katoa. Reira, a tēnā koutou, a tēnā ratata koutou. Kia ora. You will please forgive me, you will all know that I was known as the best lip syncer in Naito.
We welcome the President of the Federation of Islamic Association in New Zealand, FIANZ, Sheikh Ibra, to our event, and would like him to say a few words for us.
Kia ora. Warm greetings and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I begin in the name of Allah, the most gracious and the most beneficent, and my salam and salutations to our Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the MCs, Brother Farid, the Minister of Diversity and Inclusion, Priyanka Radhakrishna, the MPs, Honorable Worship, Your Worship Mayor, the Mayors, Your Excellencies, the members, and my colleagues from the Muslim communities, esteemed guests, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum once again. Let me also at this time acknowledge the honored 51 Shaheeds. Although they may not be here with us physically, they continue to be with us in the ways we are still learning to understand. And in this regard, I would also like to acknowledge and grace the resilience of the affected farmers and survivors. The events of 4 years ago, on the 15th of March 2019, will live forever in our memories we have for our loved ones, in our collective experience of our community, in the future pathway we choose as a nation. Today, we have come together as a testament of the power of unity, love, and the spirit of compassion. Our presence here reflects a shared commitment to building stronger connections and supporting one another in fostering the environment of understanding and empathy. In the world most often marked by diversity and discord, our gathering serves as a beacon of hope. It reminds us that despite our differences, we can stand united in our pursuit for a better tomorrow. It is through these collective efforts that we can make positive changes, leaving a lasting impact on our community and beyond. Love, the cornerstone of our relationship, binds us together in ways that transcend boundaries. It is the driving force that fuels our compassion and drives us to lend helping hand to those in need. As we embrace the spirit of compassion, we acknowledge our responsibility to give back, to uplift those who have faced adversity, and to create a more equitable country for all. Let us carry this unity, love, and the spirit of compassion beyond today's gathering. Let it guide our action and influence our decision that inspire us to continue working towards a future where every individual is valued, cherished, and given the opportunity to thrive. FIANS is pleased to be able to support peace initiatives like this, particularly given the tremendous mana that Brother Farid Ahmad holds within the community. He is a tireless advocate and activist for peace, not just through his words, but through the way he has chosen to live his life. We hope that these same principles of love, peace, and unity become more than an ideal vision of how we see ourselves and our country going into future. We hope that these principles inspire the way in which we undertake our journey, that they become the means by which we work and our destination. I'll finish with a quote from our beloved Holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, peace be upon him, who said, "You will never enter paradise until you believe, and you will not believe until you love one another, and you will not love one another until you create peace amongst yourself." Thank you, and peace be upon you.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, let us please welcome the Honourable Minister Priyanka Rajkrishnan to deliver her speech.
I ngā mana, i ngā reo, i ngā iwi o te motu, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Assalamu alaikum, and in my mother tongue, namaskaram. Good evening, everyone. Can I begin by first acknowledging and honouring the memories of the 51 shuhada who are at the heart of why we are gathered here today. Can I also acknowledge Dr. Farid Ahmad, as others have as well, and the Bangladeshi Parents Group for organising this dinner year after year. And can I thank my colleagues around me who panicked when they thought that speech and all prepared, I wasn't going to get to speak this evening. And on that note, my parliamentary colleagues who are here today, the Honourable Dr. Duncan Webb, MP for Christchurch Central, and Sarah Pallett, MP for Ilam. Can I acknowledge both of you? Members of the Diplomatic Corps who are here today. Mayors past and present. Iwi leaders. Can I acknowledge you, Sir Mark Solomon, and Mihi Tungaitahu as mana whenua of this rohe, who wrapped your arms around our communities in the aftermath of March 15th as well. I understand there are leaders from different faith communities who are here tonight as well, and I acknowledge all of you and leaders from our different ethnic communities also. Acknowledge Imam Gamal Fuda, who's here also. And I want to come back to Dr. Farid Ahmed and others who, with your message of peace and forgiveness in the immediate aftermath of March 15th, and I say others as well because I know that my colleagues at the time, the Minister for Ethnic Communities at the time and the Undersecretary, called many of you soon after March 15th happened, and many said to us, it was really humbling to hear that the instinctive reaction of leaders from our Muslim communities was a message of forgiveness and peace. Can I thank you? Because that set the tone for the response that we saw more broadly across Aotearoa, New Zealand as well. And was also underpinned, as many have already mentioned, the response by then Prime Minister, Dame Jacinda Ardern as well. Ko tātou, tātou. We are all one. As others have said, we are an incredibly diverse nation. There are over 213 ethnic communities represented across Aotearoa, New Zealand. We collectively speak over 160 languages and belong to different faith communities. And I absolutely believe that we are stronger as a nation because of our diversity and not in spite of it, as the Canadian High Commissioner also said. This theme of unity and diversity is one that I hold very close to my heart as well. It's one that reflects the fact that diversity is a strength, it is something to be celebrated, but also acknowledges that we are so much stronger when we stand together. I believe that's a theme that also lies at the heart of social cohesion. And so I thought I'd share with you all very briefly the work that I've been leading over the course of my term as the Minister, it's actually as the Associate Minister for Social Development and Employment, work to strengthen social cohesion here in New Zealand. Last year, I launched Te Korowai Whetū, Social Cohesion. This was a piece of work led by the Ministry for Social Development, who engaged with a diverse range of people across the country over many months to understand what social cohesion means for us in Aotearoa, New Zealand. The te reo name for this work program, Te Korowai Whetū, emerged from the whakatauaki, Whatua te korowai I ngā tini whetū, meaning to weave a korowai or cloak from the myriad of stars, which also reflects, I believe, the vision of unity and diversity, because it recognizes the beauty of each individual star, of each individual person or community, and recognizes the strength of cohesion through the korowai. It also acknowledges the pivotal role Te Tiriti o Waitangi has played in building the foundation for social cohesion in Aotearoa, New Zealand. In fact, someone who was part of the wānanga or the engagement sessions that were held in developing this piece of work made that very point. Te Korowai Whetū, social cohesion, gives us a definition, a framework, and resources that everyone can use to take action in various spheres across many sectors to play our role to strengthen social cohesion as well. I just want to acknowledge that we're not starting from scratch. New Zealand is generally regarded internationally as a country that has a high level of social cohesion, but there is always more that can be done and we must never take it for granted. Other speakers have made this point as well today, that there are some who do seek to exploit division based on fear and hate. And so we all have a role to play to ensure that that doesn't win. Another step that I quickly wanted to acknowledge is the establishment of the Ministry for Ethnic Communities just over 2 years ago. A ministry that is the government's chief advisor on ethnic diversity and inclusion in New Zealand. One of its priorities, one of its 4 priorities, is connection. Connecting our communities one to another, but also connecting ethnic communities with tangata whenua. That came through strongly in the engagement that was undertaken to set the priorities of the ministry. With the social cohesion work, the government's next step is that we are developing guidance so that we can use our own framework in policy and legislative decisions that we make, so that everything we do aligns and continues to strengthen social cohesion here in New Zealand. I want to quickly share, just before I end, a quote by one of the members of the Social Cohesion Working Group. It's a quote from an article in the spin-off. It speaks to the importance of this work and the importance more broadly of action by all of us. It's a quote by Anjum Rahman. She says, and I quote, "There are many for whom social cohesion is not a problem. Systems, institutions, cultural values and norms all fit in their lifestyles and beliefs. They succeed materially and otherwise because society is set up for them. They see change as a threat. They approach it with fear and defensiveness. These fears are exacerbated by actors who benefit from the status quo and see change as a loss of social and economic status and power. Until those who benefit most from the current systems are willing to change it, social cohesion will be a failed experiment." Unquote. And she talks about the role that each one of us has to play, government and others, to ensure that we continue to strengthen social cohesion as a group. Because she also says, ultimately, it's about safety and it's about equity. So my ask tonight is for everyone, I believe we're all here because we believe strongly in this work. Please feel free to use the resources as well, because they were created with great thought and care. But if they're not used, their potential to lead to a stronger, more cohesive society will be left unrealized. Can I thank everyone who's played a part in putting tonight's event together and previous years' dinners together as well? Can I say a huge thank you to you all? And I'll leave you with this whakatoki. Nā ko te roro, nā te roro, ka ora ai te iwi. With your food basket and my food basket, our people will thrive. Thank you. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience and contributions. At this stage, this part of the program is complete. And now let us all join together for chit-chat and dinner. You must be hungry and you deserve some food. In between eating, we encourage you to cross your table, meet new friends and share ideas. For those of you that wish to pray Maghrib prayer, please go to the room to my left through there and outside of the exit. Please. Imam Jim Hafalda, come on up and have a wee talk. I apologise, I missed that one out.
Kia ora, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to welcome our great Minister Bianca and our MPs and our mayor of Christchurch and the mayor of Palmerston North. And by the way, I'm from Palmerston North. I was Imam in Palmerston North for 8.5 years. I would like to also to welcome Brother Mustafa, who was the president of FIANZ at the time of the terrorist attack on our mosque on that terrible day. I would like to welcome all of you
And I would like to say that our shuhada are not forgotten, and we believe that they are alive. In the Quran, it says that the shuhada are alive with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Last year on Christmas, I was invited to speak in Canada in a conference. And it was Friday. Beside me was a far right-wing politician, but he became Muslim. He was sitting just in the mosque beside me. Few months back, he was one of the far right-wing politicians in one of the countries in Europe. So, as Brother Farid said, that our shuhada, they give us the guidance to continue the journey of togetherness, unity, and love. I have seen too much hate coming to our mosque when I was delivering the Friday speech on 15th of March. But after that, too more and much love came to our mosque, to our city, and to the world. And we have set the role model for the whole world how to respond to such hate like this. And we continue the journey, and we would like also to still continue to address the issue of hatred in New Zealand. It is not done. We'll continue. We are not angels. Still, the hate is there, and we need to continue to play our role, you and me, in our places, anywhere where we are. We need to play our role in addressing this issue. It is serious, and we have seen it on 15th of March that hate turned into a hate crime. So hate is something that is really serious, and we need to continue to address it. The last thing I would like to say is to continue the support to the victims. This week I was doing an audit in Finnegan. It is close to Dunedin, and I was going through the papers documentation, and I saw the name of a slaughterman who died 1 week after 15th of March. He came to support us in Christchurch, and then they told me his story. When they heard about his death, when he was going back, all of them, the whole plant, more than 500 people, they stopped and they cried a lot, and they hugged the Muslim brothers there. And this brother, I consider him one of the shuhada. So this trauma is actually, I talk about myself, is following me everywhere. And everything reminds me of what happened. And I know that many of the Muslim community are exactly feeling the same. And many of the non-Muslim are actually feeling the same thing. So this is painful. And we don't want this to happen to anyone again. So the government needs to play more role in supporting our victims. And I'm the first one of them. I need support. And my doctor is sitting over here. So the trauma, and even some of the victims, they are still struggling with the visa to get support from overseas. Duncan Webb is here. He's supported a lot, and Sarah Pallet and Megan Woods. But still, some just yesterday, one of them, he was crying with me in the mosque after Friday, and because of his visa declined, he was in the toilet. I don't know his story, and he was coming out. The person in front of him was killed, but he ran back. So the support to the victims is still needed. And I would like also the special support to the mute victims and those who involved, like Denise and others, who involved in supporting the Muslim community, They know the mute ones who are not vocal. They cannot talk on their behalf. They need somebody else. And the last thing is the children. One of the children who lost their father, see, is there a phone number? At least with Allah, God, I just would like to call my father, to talk to him. So these children, they need support for a long time. It is not done. It is not done. Inshallah, I will finish. Thank you very much for listening to this. I'm always talk from my heart. This is my problem sometimes. It creates problems for me. Yeah. Thank you. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم ربنا رب السماوات والأرض. نسألك اللهم أن تتقبل شهداءنا في أعلى الجنان. اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم وأكرم نزلهم ووسع مدخلهم واجعل الجنة مأواهم ولا تجعل إلى النار مصيرهم. اللهم انزل الصبر والإيمان على أهلهم وعلينا أجمعين. اللهم وحد صفوفنا. اللهم وحدنا يا رب العالمين. اللهم انصر هذا البلد ووحد صفهم. اللهم وأكرمنا وابعد الكراهية عن قلوبنا واجمعنا دائما على طاعتك. اللهم تقبل منا واقبلنا آمين والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Thank you very much.
Okay, so now the event is ended. So there's no need to go to the kitchen to get food. Our wonderful volunteers are going to come out with the food and plates and things. If you need any help, please do not hesitate to ask them. Okay, thank you very much.